Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co.
And I am Ricky. Today we're reviewing Maple Valley from KTBG.
KTBG is Kids Table Board Gaming. In fact, they put out Creature Comforts, which is the earlier game in this series, and I think is the first game you ever reviewed on the channel. So it's been quite some time. But this is Maple Valley. Maple Valley is going to be a continuation of the series while being different in its own mechanics. There's going to be some elements that are familiar. We'll go through a rough rules overview, but not in detail about absolutely everything. But the game is going to take place across 5 rounds. You can see over here we have these tokens. Those are going to track the 5 rounds, as well as what resource is the sun resource that round. You're going to have your own people over here, and this is kind of worker movement. Not so much worker placement, but rather you're going to be moving your workers along various spots on the board to take actions in those spots. And there are a few key actions. There's going to be foraging locations, which have resources in them, and you're going to gather resources, either 2 of the same type, 1 of each different type, or alternatively, if there's a sun, there's a whole other factor there. The sun resource gives you bonuses as you go. You're also going to have these center line of locations, which gives you ways of getting cards and favors and all these patches over here. So all these extra things are going to get you that, and then the starting zone over here is going to give you friend cards. And friend cards, you're going to start with a starter friend card and a random friend, and those are incredibly important because these friend cards, effectively, they're how you travel. They're how you move. On your turn, for the most part in this game, you're going to be playing a friend card in order to go ahead and move around the board, moving your person from zone to zone based on the pathways in question. So for example, right now, if I have this card in play, I can move along all the water, as many as I want, taking any bonuses of various passages you cross along the way. And you can spend maps to go ahead and move an extra at the beginning or end of your movement. So for example, if I was over here, I could spend the map to move over here, and then water all the way up over there. When you take this spot, you're going to return to the bottom, which is going to both give you the activation of getting a friend as well. And again, friends are your actions. So effectively, the more friends you have, the more actions you can take. Although the game does give you a kind of catch mechanic to those who aren't getting those actions, because you'll have these little cards that let you dawdle and stay in place and get resources instead, but not as strong of an action. The flip side is you didn't have to work towards it. You're given that for not having as many friends. Now, the main reason you're doing all of this is to kind of build up your resource and effectively get these favors done over here. You're going to have these cards over here that have resource costs on the side, and as you complete them, you're going to be able to put some of your tokens onto these event cards over here on the matching symbol, which is going to have its own little area control bonus and scoring for that, as well as an effect when those are done. Meanwhile, these over here are going to give you points, but they also give you a variable scoring point for additional things, either additional resources you got or for sets of cards you're trying to acquire. So you're going to be trying to get these as you go. And so effectively you have the favors, you have your friends, which are your main action, but you also have these patches, which give you ongoing benefits for different things, as well as points. So for example, trailblazing, once per hour, an hour being a game turn, you may travel 1 forest trail for free. So you can go ahead and get an extra travel, a little bit more flexibility, ability to jump to whoever is situationally beneficial based on whatever friends you have in play. And that's kind of the core loop you're running through. You're playing friends to be able to move around the board, to take actions, to be able to go to various foraging locations, to be able to get more favor cards or more patches, or put your tokens on those spots up there for the points they're going to give you. You're crossing over pathways to give you resources. You're going to be going to these locations, which are variable. There's going to be 2 spots on the board that give you a variety of different cards that you can go ahead and choose as to which one will be in the game, but those will give you their own unique worker placement benefits as you go through it. These sun tokens are going to be randomized. These events up here are going to be randomized, and that is basically how you are playing through Maple Valley, the board game. Yep. Did I miss anything, Ricky?
No, you didn't. Can you specify the stuffs?
Specify the things? Sure. Yeah. Well, this spot over here, the hot air balloon, when you go to these spots, unless it tells you otherwise on the bottom, so for example, I don't know how well you can see over here, but on the bottom it kind of tells you there's a limit on that action, but in general you can take the actions as many times as you want unless there's a limit. So you can go ahead and trade these actions, you can trade these resources in for those as many times as you want. You can trade that resource in for that as many times as you want. And you can trade the sun resource into a map up to 3 times, because it says limit, and you can spend maps to zoom to any location except for the bluffs and activate that location.
What are the bluffs?
The bluffs, I believe, is the top zone. I have to double check the rulebook, but I believe the bluffs is the very top zone over there, which will send you back to the beginning. Because if you zoom there, you're basically getting 3 actions in 1 turn, which is a lot. But the hot air balloon is a fun little card over there. You have the mud fort over here. The mud fort is going to allow you to trade in resources as well. These 2 actually are both very focused in trading in resources, but these are very variable in terms of the way they work and the abilities they'll give you, and it gives you a little bit more variety to the game state, along with the events, the parade, bonfire, bake sale, all of that. But that is basically Maple Valley. There's a few other modules as well. There's a little like a module for birds and for something else that I'm not remembering. But that is basically how you play through the game. And with that, Ricky, do you want to talk about our review?
Yes.
What do you like about the game?
I like how it's like, there's a limit to where you can go, and you have to collect. You have to think about where you're going.
Yeah, the main core area where I think this elevates itself over creature comforts in terms of the complexity is the map travel aspect of this game. Because you can get things done in the game, but you have to try to think through when do you want to spend maps, when do you want to try to move around, when do you want to go ahead and run a looping pathway in order to get as many extra bonuses as possible, because those are going to be useful. Some cards will give you rewards for them, other times they'll let you pay for cards, but trying to take advantage of the map to get everything done is a key part of the puzzle in the game.
I only used maps twice in the entire game last time, and that was to get an extra rock.
I use maps a lot. I like them a lot.
I literally only used maps to get an extra rock because I had the fairy house, which is thankfully right here, and gives you extra points for every pair of clay and rock hearts stored there, so I need more rock hearts.
Yeah, some of those favorite cards in particular can be incredibly rewarding. If you get the cards that don't give you a cap, they just let you store points for other things you're doing. Trying to find ways to leverage yourself into those is going to be a big. Yeah, you had was it 17 points?
Yes.
Yeah, you had a lot of points in that because that's right. You had 5 pairs plus 7 points on the card. Yeah, Ricky scored 17 points in a game that goes to 80 to 120 points. She scored 17 from a single card. But past that, I think there's a lot of things going on as far as and feel free to jump in with anything else you liked or appreciated. But I think there's a lot of things going on that that builds upon the KTBG line, builds upon Creature Comforts, and the DNA of Creature Comforts is present here. Not purely in the mechanics alone, but in the way you're going to have, even just the way you have these favorite cards, they're going to be similar to the Comfort cards. Remember what they're called? I can't remember what they're called. Were they just called Comforts or?
I don't know.
I always mixed up the name. Remember, I used to mix up the name of them.
No.
There were comforts. Or I called it comfort creatures for a long time, didn't I?
You did?
Yeah. But they're going to have the similar card structure, similar idea of the little world you're in. There are elements of similarities, while this one, I think, is a level up from the original. This one gives you more things to consider in terms of the movement, more things to consider in terms of the way things are going to score and build off each other. I like the patches. Creature Comforts had a similar mechanic, but I like the patches and the way they're implemented here in order to give you extra tableau building elements, but you have to go to the location to go ahead and get them. A big part of the game, and everything you do, is you're always trying to think through. You have a limited number of friends per turn. You'll start the game with 2 friends. As the game progresses, depending on how things go, you might end with maybe 5, maybe 6 friends at the end of the game if you're really pushing it. But that means there is an escalation across the course of the game, and I like that escalation. Round 1, you take 2 actions. Round 3, maybe 3 actions. Round 4, maybe you still have 3, maybe you've gone to 4. You are escalating the number of actions you can take, the number of pathways you can travel, and if you combine that with your map tokens, and combine the fact that there are ways to zoom around the board, there's ways to jump back to the beginning and then get a friend, which gives you a kind of double action when you do that. There's a lot of things you're trying to do here, and the game will keep it a little bit variable for you through having these different locations. I liked having different worker locations. I thought it gave you a lot of extra things to mix up the way you'll approach any given game, because the game is not 100% static. Even these tokens over here aren't fully static. They'll go to certain spots depending on the color, so there's some balance around them, but they're not fully locked into specific locations. Anything else you like?
Yep. I really like how for the pairing items, like the marionettes, paintings, and lanterns, which you get bonus points for having each of them, there's a title for them. Putting on a puppet show, because you have the paintings, then you have the marionettes, which are the puppets.
I don't think I realized that. I think you told me that. I didn't realize that.
I did.
Yeah.
And then you have the lanterns to make all the lights. Just really cute.
Yeah, she's referring to over here to this line, which I totally didn't realize by playing the game, but usually you're going to have sets of things, and each thing will reward you for having the other thing. So this is worth a certain number of points, but it's worth extra points if you have the lanterns, and the lanterns will point to the paintings, and the paintings will point to the marionettes. So if you get the whole circle, you're getting a nice little bonus for those, which is fun.
Yep.
For myself, I like the fact that the friends in the game, the friends gave you additional abilities on them. So the friends are not purely based around, okay, great, traveling along a path, because your starter friend lets you go on any path, but other friends will have specific pathways, but they give you benefits over here. They cost certain resources, they'll give you certain benefits, and you go ahead and get additional things, so you're trying to plot through both which pathways you're lacking and what flexibility you need in the game.
Yep.
Although sometimes, another thing I like is the patches in the game. These patches will often give you different ways of scoring points. Sometimes they give you abilities, other times over here we have orienteering, plus 2 points for each forest traveling friend you have, which means if you get a bunch of forest traveler friends, it's a balance, because you might be kind of limited to forest paths, which means you're going to need to rely on maps.
I got rock climbing.
Yeah, rock climbing. Right, for each rock climbing friend.
Same one.
Yeah. Basically, in the game, you often have that push and pull, the idea of, okay, great, do I lean into the flexibility that having other friend types will help me with? If I'm only going to have 5 or 6 friends across the course of the game, getting 12 points from them, getting from orienteering could be incredibly advantageous, but then you'll need maps in the game because you'll only have your starter friend for the variety of how you move around, so you're going to need to find other ways to lean into your options. You always have to think through how everything will come together. There's a lot. This game is simple in terms of what it does. There's a good combination of lightness, but also strategy and thinking as you play through this.
My my wild friend was my forest friend when we played.
Your wild friend was your forest friend? What do you mean?
I mean, I never got a forest friend.
Oh, yeah, you get.
I got water friend.
Yeah.
I got one water friend and then three.
Yeah. In the last game, I leaned heavily into
I
just
think I
all
might have
water
gotten
friends.
a forest. No, I got another water friend at the last round. I like how each of the abilities corresponds to what kind of friend it is.
Yeah.
Like, the muskrat, you get reeds when you travel on the water, and he's like a little sailor or something. And the chipmunk, if you forage, you also get a acorn, because it's a chipmunk, and stuff like that.
Anything you didn't like about the game?
Thinking.
For myself, I'll say one thing I didn't love is the fact that the getting friends only happens at the starter location, which means you usually have two ways to approach this. Way one is you stay in the down here area in order to get your starter friends. Spend your first turn staying here instead of moving up. Way two is charging up to the top so you can get that extra action and pop down. And it does at least reward you with the extra action, so that part's nice, but it means that it's kind of a little binary of like, there's so many other elements of the game that you kind of dance around, get this here, do that there, but friends specifically, it's kind of like, okay, well, either stay put or run up to the top as fast as possible. And so I wish there was some more flexibility as far as ways to get friends.
Yep.
Anything else for you?
I was just like a guide to where certain items will tend to be and the amount of points a certain item gets you on average.
Yeah, that could be.
Like, how many different types of cards does this item store on? How many points does this item get you at the end of the game?
Yeah. For me, I'd say that another thing I didn't love is there is a large degree of randomness towards completing those sets. Basically, you're going to have these cards that are coming out, and the difference between getting a full set of cards that loop together and complement each other versus not could be a big swing in points at the end of the game. And at the end of the game, maybe I got my 3 cards because they came out, and yours are buried at the bottom of the deck. Yeah, I know. I took all your cards. I took one of her cards. I took 2 of them, and I think Rafiki had one. Tavi had one. Yeah, Tavi had one. Yeah. So the luck of the draw. There's only 3. I think there's 3 copies of each card in the game, but that means there is some flexibility to them coming out. Or there's 4 of some.
There's more of some.
But trying to get those cards, sometimes you're just stuck. You're hoping for the right card. Yeah. And I'll say that, like, for example, one of these events over here does give you the ability to go ahead and go through the deck and specifically find a card that you want, and so that mitigates against that. But if you don't have that, sometimes just the luck of the draw of what comes out or something else takes it is a factor.
Like, I wish there was either a decent enough amount of more than 3 cards so that it's much more likely for you to get your thingy, or an ability that lets you steal a card from somebody else.
Yeah. As far as final thoughts,
works too.
As far as final thoughts, we all into that.
Still don't really get final
Still
thoughts.
Get final thoughts.
I think it's a really fun game.
Yeah.
And I think I prefer the sun to the winter is coming.
The winter coming from Creature Comforts?
Yes, and I'm the one who told you that the trees slightly changed.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, and before I dive into my final thoughts, I should say that it's worth noting that this is the deluxe version of the game, so if you are looking to buy this game and you're wondering why your game doesn't look exactly like this is the deluxe version. I think there are still ways to get your hands in it, but if you go on Amazon and just try to buy a copy, yours may look slightly different, so worth taking that into account. Past that, as far as final thoughts on this, I think I think Maple Valley does a great job of building on what Creature Comforts did. It is very highly accessible, it is light enough to be engaging. I've played this with my, 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and 8-year-old, and they were all invested in the game and having a good time and understanding how the systems worked. But also, I was also engaged as an adult, heavy gamer. I was also engaged in it, in the decision space that was going on here. I do think it does trend towards the lighter side. I still would not recommend this. If your primary game group is a bunch of, heavy Euro gamers, I don't think Maple Valley is going to be for you. I think this is focused on gateway and family gamers, but within that genre, I still found it rewarding and engaging to play through. Like, I'm happy to pull this out and play. To me, the way I grade most kids games or more family games are ultimately, is this something I'm willing to play with my family, or is it something I'm happy to play with my family? And I'd happily pull this out, volunteer it, and suggest it. And in fact, we actually want to get back to Creature Comforts to compare the two, because it's been a while since we played Creature Comforts.
Very long time.
It's been a very long time. A very, very long
Especially
time.
because I've only known you've had. I haven't even known you had it for an entire year yet. I don't think.
It's a hard life. We live a hard life. We play too many games. That's the problem. Yeah. But anyways, basically, so overall, as far as rating for me, rating again for children games are a little harder for me. For me, because the question is, am I rating it compared to other games or within the genre? Within the genre, it would be an easy 4 out of 5 for me. I like it a lot. As when you're comparing it to the greater, wider ecosystem of games, I think it still would be a 3.5 out of 5 in that area. But as a kids game, as a family game, an easy 4 out of 5. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are?
Yes.
Okay. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
Hi, Ricky.
And have a good one.